As a vice president, they'll move away from that to a latest poll by Global Info Analytics in relation to what voting intentions are in the Bono East region. And a majority of the Ghanaians there say the country is headed in the wrong direction. That's according to the latest poll by Global Info Analytics. Let's walk you through what the latest poll is saying. That's on your screen right now. And based off on where the country is headed in terms of whether or not it's in the right or wrong direction, 65% of the respondents from the four constituencies say that the country is headed in the wrong direction. 17% say it's headed in the right direction, with 18% saying that they do not have an opinion in relation to that. Let's look a bit more at the details as captured in this particular report. In terms of voting intentions, the Bono East region right now, based on this poll by Global Info Analytics, is giving John Mahama some 56%, Dr. Bawumia 26%, Nana Kwame Bediako 9%, and then Alan Tremantin 6%. If it's broken down into the constituencies as well, the NDC out of the four is leading in 3, with Techiman South interestingly currently being held by local government minister. Now, he is in a comfortable lead in that regard. Let's speak to Musa Dankwa, the Executive Director of Global Info Analytics, on these latest numbers that we're seeing. Mr. Dankwa, I appreciate that you could speak to us always. Let's talk to what could be influencing the numbers that we're seeing. Having read the poll, it does appear that 56% is inching close to what John Mahama gained during the 2020 elections. And so a fair representation of what the voting intentions have been since 2020, you'd say?
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Yes, if you look at what is driving the polling numbers, if you look at Bono East, the top 3 issues for voters there, it is economy, with 58% of the mentioning was economy, followed by education. 55% of the mentions were education, and jobs, 53% of the mentions were jobs. So nationally, the same issue, the economy, jobs, and education, that is driving people's voting intention. And indeed, if you look at how Mahama is doing in the constituency, in those constituency polls, you could see that he remained largely flat compared to the actual results from the elections in 2020. However, Dr. Bawumia has dropped from where Ronaldo was in 2020 to now 26%, almost 12% or so drop from when another was quite bigger than that. And the drop went to Nana Kwame Bediako and Alan Tremantin and others in the region. So you could see that Bawumia's drop from the polls actually went to his other MPP affiliates, which is Alan Tremantin and Nana Kwame Bediako.
So the presence of the two continues to affect the votes of Dr. Bawumia, based off on a number of polls that we've seen you conduct over the course of the past few weeks and months. Let's talk the parliamentary seats as well. 4 sampled, 3 in favor of the NDC so far. And interestingly, Techiman South, J-Man Sakosa is leading in that particular poll. What could be accounting for what appears to be a very commanding lead in Techiman South?
He is outperforming his party in the constituency. J-Man Sakosa receives the backing of nearly 20% of NDC voters. And we have seen this consistently. Any MP that gets 15 to 20% of NDC voters tends to do well. And it's amongst one of them that we have seen across the country. So once you are able to divide the front of NDC and you are an incumbent MP, you survive.
So he's divided the opinion, considering what was witnessed in 2020 in that particular constituency where lives were lost. It makes for an interesting reading. Do we know why he continues to be the most preferred also from the side of the NDC?
From what we've heard from the sources on the ground, you know, when we speak to them, they tell us a lot, but not many of such things can find itself to report. Apparently, he's a very generous person, and he doesn't really say that you are MPP or NDC. So probably he knew that he had a problem with the way he won the elections, and he had to make an effort to kind of make amends. And from the poll that we have seen, I think that is working towards his favor.
And for the others, we've seen, like in Pro East, the presence of an independent candidate as well. How does that play out in terms of the dynamics come December 7? Does it tilt this in the favor of the incumbent, or the governing New Patriotic Party just at the long run might nick it?
I think if you look at the Pro East, it's likely to be a contest between the NDC, Kokubuam, and then Felix Kwabunani, the independent candidate. I'm not quite sure which front it comes from, but I don't know if it's MPP or it's from NDC. But if you look at the race at the moment, the NDC candidate is a bit higher, nearly 9% or so ahead. So we believe that in the end of the day, or at the end of the day, he will win the race.
Mr. Dankwa, we'll leave it here. Thank you.
There's no doubt the December 7 elections will hold as the most crucial one in Ghana's fourth Republican history. And with the antecedents of the 2020 polls, where some 8 lives were lost, the political tension remains palpable amidst comments by the incumbent. They will not hand over to the opposition. That commentary of whether or not the Akufo-Addo government will hand over to a possible NDC government has become the subject of political contestation, following a word of caution by the national chair of the NDC for the president, or to the president, to announce his intention to do so.
We are heading towards a crucial election. You are wearing 2 caps. You are the leader of a party going into this contest, the New Patriotic Party. But more importantly, you are the current leader of Ghana. So even as your heart desires that your party will win elections, you have a bigger responsibility of making sure that there is a transparent, peaceful elections in Ghana, and there is smooth transition to the incoming president without a drop of blood coming out. And so, Mr. President, we have 4 months now to go into elections. We have heard your message on the MPP platform. You are delivering as the leader of New Patriotic Party. We are yet to hear a clear message from you, Mr. President, committing yourself to a peaceful, fair and transparent elections in Ghana, and committing yourself to respect the wishes of Ghanaians, and putting yourself in readiness to hand over power peacefully to whoever is chosen by the good people of the Republic.
Now, President Akufo-Addo at a luncheon yesterday reiterated his commitment to oversee a peaceful election, arguing it remains his last challenge as president.
Well, let's subject all of that to a bit more scrutiny this afternoon. Let's bring in the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustapha Gbande, on the present comments, which we will bring to you shortly. Mr. Gbande, perhaps we can try one more time, see if we have that sound clipping of the president at that luncheon which Kamini was speaking to yesterday, having to do with his promise of handing over power peacefully and leaving office as president. Right, we'll bring that to you shortly. I'm sure you've heard the president speak. Does it satisfy you as a party, considering the demands you had made of the president?
Okay, so thank you very much, and good evening, good afternoon to our cherished listeners. Indeed, the best thing to do and the right thing to do is for a sitting president to demonstrate positive commitment and transitioning power peacefully. On the irony, most of the things President Akufo-Addo does is that he speaks on one breath and does the opposite. As we speak under his own supervision and appointment, the current Minister for Interior, Henry Quartey, have been positioned to subvert security agencies for the purposes of rigging election 2024. They call it surprise attack. We in the NDC will not ask permission.
Mr. Gwande, these are matters we've not seen and cannot speak to. The question is quite simple and direct. You'd ask the president to openly state that he will hand over. He said that. Does that satisfy you in the NDC?
It becomes more complex when you speak but does not have the iota of commitment to walk your talk. And I'm just telling you that currently, as ongoing, are recruitments into the security services without procedure. Okay? They call it surprise operations. All they want to do is to subvert security agencies to intimidate people during voting. And so when the president goes to mount a podium and say, I will hand over power, but position an interior minister who is compromising security, what is the commitment?
Right, it does appear that Mustafa Gwande is frozen there for a bit. Let's hear from the president right now. Okay, Mr. Gwande, let's stay with you. You are frozen there a bit. You say that there is not commitment on the part of the president because the interior minister is allegedly engaged in circumventing the security apparatus of the country. We've seen the minority raise concerns, petition Shraj and the likes over this. Is it the case that you do not trust that a good enough job will be done between now and the elections to safeguard that recruitment process?
No, all we needed to do now is to let people like yourselves and the entire nation know the preparatory mindset of this government to rig the 2024 election. But beside that, we are ready to crash that strategy and to make sure that we go into a peaceful election. And we always tell President Akufo-Addo that if Ghanaians vote for His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, it will not be his wish to hand over. It will be by the dictates of the law. And he will not have a single opportunity of what he did in 2020 in 2024. We will not sleep for him to repeat same. If Ghanaians vote for a change, that change will be made manifest. There is nothing that can stop that change. We know that security agencies are being circumvented by an interior minister, and those who matter are quiet and watching him to do so with the sole intention of causing violent undertones in an election, and nobody is talking about it. We will crash it, but maybe the spillover will affect certain individuals directly, like himself.
Are these comments not unwarranted? Some will say we're heading into an elections where we're seeking to engender or ensure that peace prevails. You're speaking of crashing and the ripple effects affecting individuals and the likes. These are comments that you should not be making ahead of a crucial election like this. You'd agree?
We in the NDC are committed to a peaceful election. We are doing all we can to make sure that there's a peaceful election. At least I do know that the NDC does not have a strategy of rigging an election against our opponent. These are
allegations you continue to make, but when you begin to talk about crushing individuals and the likes...
They are not allegations. Go and find out from the interior minister if he is doing recruitment or not. Find out from the security agencies if they are sole involved. Find out the people who are being trained in various security installations put in national security. Just 3 days ago, a couple of them have been moved. We know all these because we have intelligence, and they know that we know. And so when the president comes to say things he's not committed to, then you are tempted to think if really the president is committed to a peaceful election. A peaceful election that will see to it that the right things are done. This is the same man who appointed politicians onto the board of the commission. We all know that.
Right.
This is the same man under whose regime systems of elections are being compromised. Computers are getting missing and all of that. So where is the trust? Where is the national consensus of credibility around the electioneering process? That is what the NDC is worried about. And I'm telling you that the interior minister currently positioned is subverting security power in order to cause some sort of traction towards themselves in the election.
Point well made, Mr. Gwande. Point well made.
Dangerous.
And so you don't trust in the words of the president. I appreciate that you could speak to us. That's Mustafa Bande. He's a Deputy General Secretary of the Opposition National Democratic Congress. We can now hear from the president when he gave that assurance yesterday to some senior citizens.
The last major challenge for me is to preside over peaceful and fair elections in December. And that is a commitment that with the help of all Ghanaians, I intend to realize. The people of Ghana deserve no less than to be given the best atmosphere in which to choose freely their next president and parliament. I intend to ensure that our reputation as a beacon of democracy and stability in Africa and the world is maintained.